super busy, so thank you for being here. This workshop is to discuss staff's effort to develop an ordinance and objective design standards for AB 2011 and SB 6, which are two relatively newer housing bills adopted or became effective July 1 of 2023. They are very complicated bills, and I wanted to share that we're very fortunate to have what I feel are the most qualified and experienced housing consultants in California assisting us with this work effort. Ascent Environmental is uniquely qualified as they were one of the few firms selected by the state of California to assist cities and counties across the state to understand and help implement housing legislation. They prepared the first objective design standard toolkit and FAQs in the state of California, and that was to assist municipalities to implement the ever-changing and very complicated housing legislation. So I just wanted to mention their unprecedented experience and qualifications because they are more humble and they will not share all of that. So again, thank you for being here, and now I'm going to turn it over to our project manager, Sarah.
Hello, I'm Sarah Cadona. I'm an associate planner here with the city of Encinitas, and I am also the project manager for this work effort. First off, we're going to go through some introductions of the project team here. So we have myself as the project manager, Patty Anders, who is the planning manager, and then on the Ascent consultant team, we have Matt Geldman, we have Veronica Alatorre, and then Christine Babla. Perfect. And then this is our agenda for today. We ask that you please hold your questions till the end, as we have a lot to cover tonight, and we want to ensure that we get through our entire presentation. So the project background, so in May of 2023, the City Council applied and received a SANDAG HAP grant from HCD REAP 2.0 program. And then in June of 2023, the City Council executed a resolution to initiate the amendments to the Municipal Code and Local Coastal Program to implement AB 2011 and SB 6. And then in September of 2024, the City Council approved a professional services agreement with Ascent Environmental to provide technical expertise with these bills. And now I'm going to hand it over to Matt.
All right, well, I am going to start, with an introduction. My name is Matt Geldman. I'm a senior urban planner at Ascent, as has been shared. But we're working with the city on this project and wanted to give you a little bit of overview before we dive into the details here. The city is working on establishing local procedures for state law that allows residential development in commercial zones, known as AB 2011 and SB 6. As part of this project, it includes creating new standards for the design of multifamily projects, including AB 2011 and SB 6 projects. And those standards would apply in the downtown Encinitas specific plan area and the North 101 corridor specific plan. So two actions being taken concurrently here. An overview of AB 2011 and SB 6. Both are in effect today, and someone could come in now and use these bills. Both the bills allow multifamily residential development in commercial zones and override the local zoning rules, which would not allow residential in commercial zones. These laws were enacted, along with many other laws, to facilitate development of affordable housing and particularly targeting underutilized commercial areas. The bill is very technical and complicated and detailed. There's a lot of eligibility criteria, development standards, and other requirements in order to be able to develop under each of these bills, both AB 2011 and SB 6. So we'll be doing our best to get you familiar with those and understand them, but they are very complicated, so it's going to be a pretty high level. In terms of the planning process, this is the beginning with the workshop to introduce the project and get some feedback early on. After this workshop, we will be working to develop a draft ordinance and draft objective design standards and coming back for a public review period to share with interested stakeholders. As part of that, there will be additional workshops, both focused on downtown Encinitas and the North 101 area, as well as a joint planning commission and city council workshop before the public review period ends. And we'll kind of wrap up with that as well. But again, just wanted to let you know this is the beginning of the process. So now getting into AB 2011 and SB 6 here. As I mentioned, both of these bills allow multifamily residential development in commercial zones. That's defined as zones where office, retail, and parking are the principally permitted uses. And there is a definition for principally permitted uses that you can refer to here, and it comes from state law. The bills have some similarities and some differences. They both allow housing in zones designated for office, retail, and parking. That's why we're talking about them together. Their intent is the same. Both of these bills can allow 100% residential use or a mix of uses, not to be confused with affordability levels, but we're talking about use here. And there are specified labor requirements for both the bills. Both of these bills allow projects to be eligible under density bonus law, and they both allow the city to continue to apply objective zoning, design, subdivision standards, as long as they're applicable to all multifamily residential development. Some of the differences are that AB 2011 does require affordable housing to be provided. That's a big contrast from SB 6. AB 2011 has a streamlined ministerial process outlined in state law. SB 6 does not. And AB 2011 has CEQA streamlining as part of it, and SB 6 does not. One big caveat with SB 6 is it can be combined with Government Code Section 65913.4, which probably doesn't mean anything really, but it does allow some of these actions to come back in terms of streamlined approval and CEQA streamlining. But again, there's additional hoops you have to jump through to qualify for that. Between the two bills, there's really three pathways or project types that are defined. They're defined primarily based on affordability levels, but also in eligibility criteria. And as a result, there's different development standards that apply to each of the project types. So starting with AB 2011 mixed income, talking about affordability levels here, and mixed income includes a mix of affordable units and market rate units. The affordable units can be very low, low, and moderate, with some specified affordability levels mixed with market rate units. The other project type under AB 2011, 100% affordable. As in the name, needs to be 100% affordable to all, and all units need to be available for lower income residents, 80% of AMI, and doesn't qualify for moderate income. And as I mentioned before, SB 6 does not have affordable housing requirements built into it. And so, yeah, these projects are distinguished by their affordability levels and the amount of affordable housing required. But they can be a combination of residential and commercial uses within them. So when we're talking about the affordability levels, it's the amount of affordable housing in the residential component of the project. So a lot of things going on there, and we'll kind of revisit some of that as well. So here you can see a chart kind of comparing and contrasting some of the eligibility criteria. Just to note a couple of the key ones here. Site size is one requirement. For mixed income, the other key requirement for the mixed income project type is the frontage requirement. You have to have a 50-foot minimum frontage along a commercial corridor. That's defined as a road between 70 and 150 feet of roadway width. So pretty specific definition in state law. You can see other requirements for surrounding uses, relationship to industrial uses, and things like that. Some other requirements, it does have to be multifamily, so it has to have 5 or more units. There are specific requirements if you're located near a freeway. You can't be within 3,200 feet of an oil extraction facility. I don't think that applies here in Encinitas, but it is in the bill. And there are some very specific environmental criteria that need to be satisfied. So you can't be in a wetland and a whole list of things to screen out some potential sites. So something to be aware of. And there are some limits on demolition of historic properties and limits on demolition of certain affordable housing or deed restricted or rent controlled units as part of AB 2011. The city has put together an online viewer to screen potentially eligible sites for both AB 2011 and SB 6. So if you Google and made it to the project website, it is at the very bottom, and you can kind of pan and zoom and see which sites are potentially eligible. Again, this is just a primary, cursory screening. It's not an actual determination of eligibility. The criteria are quite specific, so it does take some work to demonstrate eligibility. In terms of density standards, I'm going to start by talking about the 100% affordable and SB6 projects. Both of those project types have a minimum density of 30 dwelling units per acre defined in state law. There is no maximum density specified in state law for those two project types again, and they are eligible for density bonus. Under state law, the operative zone for those two project types in Encinitas is the R30 overlay zone. So the development standards and objective design standards specific to those zones would apply, and that includes a maximum height of 35 feet as specified in the development code standards for the R30 overlay. A little bit more detail. I think this one I touched on and is relatively straightforward, but the affordable housing requirements for the 100% affordable AB 2011, all units must be dedicated to lower income households. Deed restriction for rental and owner-occupied units is required. SB 6 does not have an affordable requirement, but if you use the streamlining provisions of other government codes, which you're eligible for under SB 6, you may have to provide affordable housing. Switching project type, so now I'm talking about the mixed income project type under AB 2011. Things start to change quite a bit, both in terms of density, height, and applicable development standards. So the density standards in state law are defined by frontage type as well as site size, and in Encinitas, that can go up to 60 dwelling units per acre. State law does talk about 80 dwelling units per acre being a max near major transit stops, but Encinitas is exempt from those provisions because it has a population less than 100,000 and it's within the coastal zone, so that does not apply. There's other requirements to how to meet minimum density and what the maximum density is. I mentioned there. So quite specific on what the density is for this AB 2011 mixed income project type. In terms of height, it's a similar concoction of how it shapes based on site frontage for the AB 2011 mixed income. So depending on your frontage type, you may be eligible for increased height up to 45 feet maximum if you're on a commercial corridor that's greater than 100 feet. And I think that would include most of 101, but we can check that too. And then again, it does speak to a height limit of 65 feet near a major transit stop, but for the same reasons, that's not applicable in Encinitas. AB 2011 mixed income projects are also subject to specified setback standards. That includes front setbacks along commercial corridors. It includes side setbacks and a percentage of frontage that must be within 10 feet of the commercial corridor. It also addresses setbacks abutting residential and step backs for upper floors where there's residential adjacent. It's a pretty complicated if this then that setup in the bill, so it does take a little bit of time to make sure what and figure out what applies to each individual site. The other development standards that apply include the zoning, subdivision, and design requirements of the R30 overlay zone. That is also applicable to the AB 2011 mixed income projects. The height portion does not, that's superseded by state law. And then AB 2011 also says the city cannot require parking unless we're talking about bike parking, EV parking, or accessible parking. The AB 2011 mixed income projects, the affordable housing requirements for those, it speaks to basically saying you have to provide the most affordable and units depending on what's specified in state law or the city's local inclusionary housing unit or ordinance, excuse me. So it kind of depends on how many units you provide at different levels of affordability. So that's something that's going to be worked out as the ordinance is developed and implemented here in the city. Couple of other important provisions that apply both to AB 2011 and SB 6. There is commercial tenant notice and relocation assistance required for the AB 2011 mixed income projects and for SB 6. They're not applicable for the 100% affordable AB 2011. And then there are different labor requirements that apply to different projects across all three project types, depending on which one you choose and what makes sense. So that's the overview of AB 2011 and SB 6. And again, we're happy to take questions at the end. I'm going to move into the objective design standards portion of the project and talk about why this is important for the city, because this is really the city's primary way to control the development multifamily housing within the downtown Encinitas specific plan and North 101, and to be able to ensure that the standards that are already in, well, not standards, the guidelines in the specific plans become standards and can be applied to those projects. So that's the way the city can affect both the design and development of AB 2011 and SB 6 projects, as well as all multifamily projects in those specific plan areas. The purpose is really to shape the appearance and form and quality of design for these projects and help enhance the community's character while meeting state requirements, and to try and establish a clear and predictable set of standards for everyone involved in the development process. Objective design standards is a term defined in state law. It involves no personal or subjective judgment, should be uniformly knowable, it should be external reference and a uniform benchmark, and it should be knowable by the development applicant. So the city can't hide something behind the counter and say, oh, this one manual, and not make it available to you. Everything should be up on the table so you can make decisions as development comes forward. Objective design standards can be in separate objective design standards manuals, but also can live in general plans, zoning codes, specific plans, subdivision, other municipal code requirements. And these are the only basis the city can use for certain eligible project types to deny or reduce the density of certain eligible projects. So guidelines versus standards. Guidelines are kind of what's in the downtown Encinitas specific plan now and the North 101 corridor. They're a little vaguer and are not objective. They're more subjective. So on the left side of the table are some examples of guidelines. On the right side, objective standards. So just as an example, on the left you could see provide articulation to reduce the apparent mass and scale of building and be sensitive to the neighborhood. So, the question is, how do you provide articulation? How is that demonstrated and objective? So on the right is an attempt to make that objective. For every 100 feet of building length, there shall be a plane break along the facade comprised of an offset of at least 5 feet in depth by 25 feet in length. The offset shall extend from the grade to the highest story. So you can see there's kind of triggers for when that applies, dimensions for how often the articulation needs to be provided, as well as some standards for what it means to provide articulation. So that should be verifiable on a set of building plans. Not going to read through all of these. I think you kind of get the gist here. So some other examples. Graphics are a very important tool here for objective design standards. You could see on the top left a picture of an offset requirement, which dimensions of 5 feet by 25 feet. That would push the facade back and provide some variation in the building. On the top right, you could see, a standard being built around a continuous roof line and limiting that to 100 feet maximum length, so you don't have a really flat roof running for a long time and providing variation in the roof line. Again, just some examples to demonstrate how measurements are an important factor for objective design standards. So an overview of objective design standard topics that are being considered as we develop standards for downtown Encinitas and the North 101 corridor. I'm going to go into each of these topics in a little more detail here. Starting with site planning, which includes things like setbacks, pushing the building back from the property line to a specified dimension from the property line, building orientation, where should entries be located, as well as step backs, pushing back upper floors from the property line. You can see some examples here illustrating, building orientation on the left side where the entries are facing the sidewalk, which is kind of an important idea, especially in downtown Encinitas, to try and activate the commercial corridor there, as well as setbacks to get buildings off of the street a little bit more, and step backs to help reduce the appearance of mass, especially at the pedestrian level. Getting into building design, which is a very important set of topics to really try and break down and prevent monotonous, large, cube buildings or square buildings, and provide some variation in architecture in an objective way. I'll mention too here that these topics all work together. Not one topic is really more important than another. And to achieve good design, it really takes consideration of all these topics. And to regulate development and enhance the community character, these things work in concert. So if the goal is to minimize large building volumes, thinking about the facade and variation in the horizontal plane of the facade is really important. Providing details in architecture to modulate the facade, so balconies, windows, canopies, and things like that. Again, so it's not a flat face and rectilinear the whole facade length. And as well, another important part of that is the roof design. And I talked a little bit about flat roof and a continuous straight line, so providing some variation in pitch. Roof type and the horizontal and vertical dimensions of the roof are all tools to consider as part of building design and objective design standards. The ground floor treatment is also a key focus of objective design standards. Again, really important in downtown Encinitas, but also in North 101, where you have active ground floors and you want to promote pedestrian activity. The existing downtown Encinitas specific plan really discourages residential uses on the ground floor. And so when we're talking about things like AB 2011, which allow residential to be built, objective design standards are important to think about. What does it mean? How do you still have an active and appropriate frontage in a commercial district that has residential use? So things like transparency, whether that's a commercial or residential use, where you locate the openings, and is it a common building entry? Do you put a canopy over it? How do you signal that that's a residential entry? And then if it's individual entries, distinguishing them through like a private stoop or raising them a little bit through steps, things like that to help, kind of activate and provide an appropriate relationship between the building and the public realm. And then also on the ground floor, architectural details are important. The materials, the use of transparency, and providing pedestrians an opportunity to see into spaces is important, especially commercial spaces, not so much residential. Open space is another topic that we anticipate including in the objective design standards. That includes talking about the requirements for how much open space is provided, how much of that should be common open space, how much should be private open space, and how do you satisfy that requirement? What do you do with your common open space? Is it a plaza? Is it a playground structure? And what does the city and the community want to see to have good common open space? And then private open space, making sure that it's usable. It's not just a 1 foot by 3 foot little overhang outside that, people can't use. So those are the things we're trying to address through the open space components. Looking out also on here, addressing planting, design features, landscaping, and other elements. And then a whole host of other topics I anticipate will be included. Things like exterior finish materials of buildings. Typically that's a list of undesirable materials like plywood or something that sometimes people try to get away with, as well as dealing with landscaping requirements, walls and fencing, the design of those, exterior lighting. And another key idea that I think comes from the downtown Encinitas specific plan and the North 101 is access and parking and circulation, and trying to provide standards for how many access points should be along 101 and how to take access from adjacent streets or alleys. And then kind of dealing with the functional aspects of buildings as well, the service areas, storage, and screening of utilities and things like that. So those are all topics that I anticipate will be addressed through the objective design standards. So that's it on objective design standards, it on AB 2011. I'm going to hand it back to Sarah to kind of round out the presentation here.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt. So just to kind of go over the planning process and looking forward. So this is the very beginning of the planning process, as this is our first community outreach effort. Please follow the project page for the latest updates and upcoming workshops. We do anticipate to have 2 more community workshops, and then we will have a joint planning commission and city council study session, and then we will be bringing it to 2 planning commission hearings and 2 city council hearings. So now we're going to open it up for questions. And then we do have some interactive activities for the objective design standards. And my email is here on the screen. I also have my business card here. If you kind of want to take it home, digest it a little bit, and then feel free to email me any questions or comments you may have.
I have one question. Has there anybody in town here that has, on either one of those, done anything at all?
No,
No.
we don't have any current applications or interest for any of the 3 project types.
I will add though, that we have had meetings with a few developers that showed interest, but no, as Sarah said, no formal applications have been submitted.
I know that a lot of it, it's, you know, when you get into it, there's so many, oh, this looks like it's good, oh, no, but we got this, oh, that one. Or, you know, it's a matter of, it's, you know, the puzzle, especially when you're committing on a fairly large project, to really, you need almost a consultant that really understands all the nuances that I was trying to figure out what, you know, into buying something, like, oh my God, I didn't know this, and this is not going to work, it's going to lose money on it, you know, so I think you know, things like this and having me, you know, consultants, I know there's some up in LA that we've talked to that, you know, to kind of help when you find, okay, this piece of dirt here looks like it's good, but then there's so many things that can trip you up to where you, oh my gosh, I've way overpaid for this, and there's no way this is going to work. So I think that's probably for somebody that's in the development business, is you're relying even on the consultants lots of times that aren't fully up to speed, and you get it, and you go, oh, I didn't know, you didn't tell me about this. It's going to be a money loser, you know. So that's the confusing part. There's so many ins and outs that you know, you're not going to learn it on a night like this. It's you need somebody that's really delved into it as a consultant. That, yeah, and that's why, I mean, we would not put anything into escrow unless we, you know, we have a long escrow period and really understand what pitfalls that you run into that can be a financial disaster. So I think that's why probably a lot of people, it's confusing to them, and so many things that could trip you up that you hadn't anticipated, that it's a very risky deal at this point. Maybe after 5 years from now, or when everything's settled down to the ground and everybody kind of understands the nuances, and there's not any architects that are really up to speed on it that much that I'm aware of. When we talked to them, they kind of more than on a lot of things. It is we're really taking a leap of faith until you have at least some consultant or somebody that really knows what they're talking about. And then of course the city has to be up to speed to answer questions too, which takes time, and there's a lot of nuances that make it, you know, not a normal deal. So that's
Understood. And that's why we feel preparing the ordinance and having the objective design standards will really be helpful. So we're trying to be proactive so that if applications come in, this is a tool not only for developers and architects, but also for staff, because it's a very, very nuanced. And the tool that we created is very, very helpful, because we went through that detailed nuance of all the scenarios in each zone. So as Matt indicated, it's not a guarantee, but it's a very good first kind of launch of potential criteria. So we have some maps here that show eligibility for both bills, but I think we've really done a deep dive in our consultant team and they, like I mentioned, they are uniquely qualified because they work for the state, and we also have attorneys involved helping us interpret it, because to your point, some people may interpret what they think makes sense and is logical, but that may not necessarily meet the intent of the bill or how the state or legal attorneys that are familiar with it interpret it. So it is really, really important to have the right people involved in making the right interpretations, and that's what we were hoping that we are doing this evening with this work effort, is really having the most experienced and qualified folks helping us.
Yeah, and the staff has to get up to speed enough to where that even though you rely on staff, again, you have to make sure there isn't anything that you've headed down the path and you've run into a brick wall.
Yeah, we've had to take numerous passes just to make sure that it's clear and we've caught everything.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's a puzzle.
Not lead somebody into a death spiral.
Yeah, and we will be sharing the ordinance at some opportunity to
Mhm.
review the ordinance as well as the design standards. So if you're welcome, to look at it very closely, and if things don't make sense, if it's confusing, we welcome that feedback. We can't change much with the
No, I was
ordinance,
gonna
but
say, it's
we want to
gotta
make
thread
sure.
the needle.
Yeah, we want to make sure that, it is clear, as clear as can be, given the parameters of state law.
Can understand.
And we really are trying to vet all our interpretations to make sure they meet legal
Yeah.
scrutiny. So we really are taking a deep dive in doing it, and it's not an easy task, but this team's done a great job in really
Yeah.
digging into the details, and I think the ordinance and the objective design standards will be really, really helpful in a tool for developers, because it will take some of the guesswork out of it.
It's always a risk. Do you know any of the attorneys here in town? We use Lethal Watkins and a few other attorneys, depending on what they are. Is there any law firm that you all, this so-and-so, is pretty up to speed, or?
We can't make any recommendations,
Okay.
sorry.
Land use attorneys, and they should know.
Yeah. I see lots of times they'll have 3 different attorneys that will look at things, and I'm looking, wait a minute, this is different than this guy, so. But anyway,
It takes a pretty close read.
yeah, I was gonna say, there's a lot of things.
Depends on which path you go down, and you really have to be
Yeah.
careful of what section of government code you're looking at. And they've changed too. They changed last year with the passage of AB 2243. So, I think if you just Google AB 2011, you look at it, that's one thing, but you really have to make sure you're looking at government code too. So,
Yeah, definitely a good attorney for all that.
yeah.
I don't really have any more questions on my side, but I appreciate you and all of you being here in person. But I think that's because it does confuse a lot of people that are in the business that just go, oh gosh, wait, they're kind of scared to delve into it. It's a lot of opportunities, I think, but it's got to be, you have to have, where you say the right team, and the staff has to be up to speed to where something doesn't get, catch it some way. So.
Are there, I think I have an idea of some of the tripping points, but do you have anything you could share on aspects of the bill that you're particularly concerned with, or might be a deal breaker for you?
I can't think of any specifics. I've read all attorneys' opinions on various things, from LA attorneys on this and that, the other thing, but I don't feel real comfortable because
Yeah.
I seem to get a little different answers on things, and I go, oh, okay.
That makes sense.
So then a lot of people say, let's just wait for a year or so. But I mean, the opportunities are right now to do something. But again, you got to know which. Fairly clear that it is to me right now.
Have you had an opportunity to look at our tool online to see if the property that you own might initially meet the screening criteria?
I have. There's some others that we're looking at. They're more in like the Katy area that we've looked at.
Katie's?
We're not. Yeah.
But that's part of the city.
Yeah. Yeah.
Encinitas.
Yeah. I know it is. Yeah.
That's our North 101 specific plan.
Yeah.
So
We've looked at. I guess I don't know who owns the big piece of property way down on the left-hand side that are undeveloped. That. Yeah. There's a couple of.
Show here.
Yeah, probably where the pink is, maybe. There.
Maria.
Up on the left, yeah. This side of Maria, there's some, several. I don't know who.
yeah, that is in one of our housing element. It was one of my projects. Yeah, it's gotten titled. It's already got titled, and it's in coastal commission,
Okay.
working its
So
way.
somebody, yeah. Do you know who the owner is?
Larry Jekyll is the owner. Yeah, it's a small hotel. I forget how many units.
Mm-hmm.
We have it in our sheets.
Yeah, well, there's several parcels there.
Yeah, and yep, that's the
Okay.
project that I worked on. So it's a really really cool. It's got mixed use.
Uh-huh.
It's got, I forget how many units, I should know that. But it's a great combination of like art, the workspace, artist space, several, 4 different residential buildings,
Uh-huh.
mixed use. So it's really cool, and it's going to have a connection to the existing Maria Leah Hotel,
Uh-huh.
immediately adjacent to it.
That looks like you could do that, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's
so-
off the table. That's-
94 units.
Thank you. 94 residential units, yeah.
Huh. That's all?
And I think 11 different buildings.
Two small buildings. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't really, have any more questions, but I appreciate it. But I think that's why you don't get a lot of people, because it's complicated. If they have other things to do that are simpler, they do that. I know how to do that, but I don't know how to do the rest of the stuff.
This was the overview too. We could have
Yeah,
really
I know
bored
a
you if we
deep
wanted
dive.
to.
I know. There's a lot more to it than that.